I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. So special guests, Tim and Marie. This is the podcast where we all went and saw a movie at our local Regal Cinema Theater, and now we're going to talk about it in the parking structure, in the hotness and the steaminess of Maryland weather. And we're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Can you bring your kids? Should you bring a date? Should you go by yourself? Should you snack? Do you need to pay attention the whole time? Can you slack off a little bit? We'll try to answer some or all or none of those questions. We kind of are a broad spectrum here. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and I think we're guaranteed to cover something in there.
Fair enough.
So
make promises for yourself. Don't speak for me.
Well, I just am very confident.
Oh, okay.
You know, we could be let down, but I'm confident that we can get there.
I'm not going to let myself down. Maybe I'll let the people down, but not me.
Well, we can't control other people.
That's true.
We have to just stay true to ourselves.
Very true.
So, we saw a movie. This movie is called Inside Out 2. It's the sequel to Inside Out. It's an animated Pixar movie. And so you don't have any live action people, but you've got voice actors. Some of them may be recognizable. Tim, who are they?
All right, well, we've got returning from the first film, Amy Poehler is the lead one. She's mainly of Parks and Rec fame, of course, Saturday Night Live, and been around a long time. She's Joy. We've got Phyllis Smith from The Office playing Sadness again. Lewis Black, the comedian, is Anger, as he was in the first film. And then I think the other two, Disgust and Fear, were replaced. Tony Hale, who's mostly known for Arrested Development, is Fear this time. It was Bill Hader in the first movie. And I don't know the actress for Disgust, but it was originally Mindy Kaling, who's also from The Office in the first movie. And then we got some new emotions in this movie. So Maya Hawke, who is the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, she is Anxiety, one of the new emotions as well. But as far as other well-known names, I don't think there are any. Diane Lane and Kyle MacLachlan were her parents in the first one, and they're back in this, but they're not a big part.
The woman who's in The Bear.
The woman who's in The Bear, her name, I'm going to butcher it probably. Ayo Edebiri. She also was the voice of April in the newest Ninja Turtles movie. She, in this movie, is Envy.
And she was in Bottoms, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, that's right.
And she was in Bottoms as well.
She's been getting around lately. Mm-hmm. Well, so what's this movie about? Well, our main girl, what's her name?
Riley
is hitting puberty, and so some new emotions come on the scene. As Tim was discussing, we've got new emotions of anxiety and ennui and
envy
and embarrassment and new things for the teen years, which start in this movie. And so we follow Riley on basically the movie is centered around Riley is at
Hockey camp
for a weekend, and has a lot of choices to make, as we all do when we hit puberty, about keeping friends and finding new friends and impressing people and doing things to fit in. All this stuff is covered in this movie. But of course, inside of Riley's head, if you haven't seen Inside Out 1, there are emotions in her head who are personified and help her and control things that happen for her by means of a control panel that's, I guess, her brain. But there's lots of memories and emotions, and these are all represented by different things. But basically, the real stars of the movie are the emotions who try and navigate for themselves what it means that their girl that they're inside of is experiencing new emotions and figuring things out, and so they have to basically figure out how to grow with the times and adapt with the times, and help her to come to a new reality, which is life is more complex as you enter puberty and high school, And that's the story of economics.
Mm-hmm.
So, Todd, what are your inside or your outside emotions and gut reactions to Inside Out 2?
Well, I did like this movie. It's going to get a pretty good rating for me. I'll get the small things that bothered me out of the way first. There was a lot, I felt there was a fair amount of repeat from the first one. Like, there's new emotions, and that's all new and fun, but we still have another movie where the emotions get kicked out of the main office, and they go on a journey to get back to the main office, and it's like, and they updated it. Like, they didn't really repeat like all the obstacles they went through, and I mean, that was good on them, but I could have done with a little bit different of a story, like that didn't feel so much like the first one. And coming with that was like a lot of like what's established in the first one is not followed here. Like, there's times where they go fall off a cliff and stuff like that, and the first movie has that fall into the chasm and you will disappear because you'll be forgotten, and that just never is mentioned or brought up. And I don't know, maybe it's because she's growing up, it's not there anymore. I don't really know. So that was just small things that I was like, I think you could have done better in those areas. But in general, I think this is a good movie. I really like this movie, and certainly there's aspects of this movie that really resonated with me in thinking about when I was 13 going into high school and all the anxiety that I had and how it was like crippling and it really affected me. And I thought they did like a really good, animated interpretation of what anxiety could look like and how it could take over as soon as it arrives, it could take over your brain and stuff like that. All I could really think was, man, my emotions that are in my head really let me down. I wish I had like a joy or something that saved my brain.
Guide you.
But I think this movie is really good. I think the script I think is really tight and good. I liked all the jokes. Like, I didn't like roll my eyes or anything during any of them. There's like plenty of puns and there's play on words, and like I felt like they kind of went through many different joke types, and I liked that. Like, it wasn't like one consistent like this kind of joke through the entire movie. It just rolled with a whole bunch of different things, and I thought that was really good. And honestly, like, I could see these movies, both this one and the first one, I could see these being like shown to future teachers or something, like as like in like a college course, to be like, obviously this isn't exactly how the brain works, but the outcome is still true, how you're affected by your emotions and what emotions take over and how it can positively affect you or negatively affect you. I could have also done with like maybe like a little bit more time between the first one and the second one, as far as like in the first one she's maybe like 10 or 11 and this one she's 13. I'm keeping the door open for like maybe they'll do another one and she's like 18, graduating high school, like, and embracing college or whatever. But yeah, I had a good time. I don't think there was any point in this movie where I was just like, speed it up here, let's go. I thought it had fine pacing. Like, as soon as I felt like things were getting a little stale, something jumped in that was either funny or thought-provoking for myself, like, that was good for me to reflect on and stuff like that. So, just like a lot of Pixar movies, I think it being a kids movie, but these are, like, I think these are pretty deep movies. Like, and I think that's what I really think is special about Pixar movies, is that they, they're for kids, they're made for kids and stuff like that, but some of them have such deep meanings. And honestly, I could see these two movies being, and I'm thinking about my own daughter here, but I could see these two movies being something that we talk about a lot as she gets a little older and starts experiencing new emotions and stuff like that. I think these could be great, talking points. Well, remember we saw Inside Out 2, and like, I know that you're feeling anxious about something. Let's talk about it. Remember how anxiety took over Riley's brain? Like, I could see these movies being really, really informative to anyone of a certain age getting to a point. And I really like that. Like, I'm like, that's a cool connection. And if that's what they went for, fantastic. If that's not what they went for, you still succeeded in my mind. So, yeah, I'm going to say go see it. I don't think there's a reason not to see it. I'm excited to take my daughter to see it. She loved the first one. I think we'll have a good time. So, I say get out there, see it in theaters. I wouldn't just wait for it to come on Disney+. I'd go support it so that Pixar can keep, shooting out the hits. I mean, not all of them were hits, but I think they have a really good track record. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to get a positive rating for me. I'm excited to hear how everyone else felt. So, Marie, how did you feel?
I had lots of feelings, but that's what this movie was about, right?
Absolutely.
I thought it was sweet, and I thought it was clever. I thought the writing was good. The animation was great. I also enjoy, like you said, Todd, that the Pixar shows have something for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, they have the really universal themes of life that we all experience, but they're funny and cute and entertaining for the kids, and then we just hope they get some of that in there. I enjoyed the first half of the movie a lot better than I enjoyed the second half of the movie. I really enjoy all the description of the characters and the feelings and how they work together and how her brain works and all the systems they have set up and the checks and balances and the new people, the new emotions that showed up. But I didn't really enjoy the conflict arc of it, and I thought the resolution came a little too quickly at the end, and especially with anxiety being as big of a character as they were, the resolution and the finish kind of felt rushed to me. And while they spent all this time building the story and building the characters, I felt the end, it was just a little, I don't know, it just felt rushed. I didn't really like how they did that. The message was good, and I like happy endings, but I think a little more time needed to pass. It got resolved too quickly. But overall, I think it's a great movie. I think everybody should go see it, grown-ups and kids, and grown-ups or kids that pretend to be grown-ups, like we are, and bring snacks. But an earlier showing, it's a little late for me right now. It's past my bedtime.
Fair. Tim?
But I appreciate that you guys did the later
Shut up,
show
Tim.
for me. So
Yes,
go ahead.
Sure.
Tim?
Yes. So yeah, I'm with you on the Pixar track record. I think it's really been, for the most part, some really clever ideas, great execution on things over the years with very different subjects and different types of movies. Inside Out 1 is one of my favorites of theirs, probably top 3. I thought it was so groundbreaking and really thoughtful. Like you said, something you can share with kids, something you can relate to yourself. We all have emotions, we all have the ways we look at things, and playing into it with comedy and how your brain works and in a fantastical way. Of course it's a cartoon, so it's fine, but it's they really make it sound like, your brain could work that way. And it's just very clever, very well written, very lots of great ideas, perfect voice matching, like voice casting for the people. I feel like everybody is cast exactly right. And so as far as doing a second one, I was really excited to see where they were going to go. Adding emotions was the hook in the teaser. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's time for that. Let's do that. And I thought they did a great job balancing the main characters from the first one who were driving young Riley. And now you have these more complicated emotions that can have two sides to them. Just like they learned in the first movie that joy and sadness might have to work together sometimes, even though they're opposites. And so this one, you had these ones who had, much more going on, because anxiety and embarrassment and boredom are all very different teenage emotions, and they, having them manifesting take control makes sense. And so I thought they covered all that really well, and even the little jokey things like do with the parents' reactions, and then we zoom into their heads and how they handle it, and those are always funny.
Was great.
Yeah, and then so I feel like they hit some of the same beats, but in a good way, where they kind of updated the jokes or had some more to say. And then like Todd said, the writing, the jokes they went for, and the word plays, and I think we're even better this time. Like they really came up with some. You could tell almost to the point where they might have come up with the joke first and then built the scene, but it wasn't bad like that. Like they really had some clever things going on, and I don't want to spoil any of them because they really hit you when you're watching it. But to me, this was just as good. You could watch them next to each other as like a little two-piece thing. They're both not very long. I think I almost want to see a third one, like you said, to have Riley growing up in the final chapter as she becomes. Because I think what this movie tried to establish is, unlike the first one, it was kind of emotions were driving her. In this movie, they developed a sense of self-idea, which I thought was a really nice addition to the world that they've built. And that, so now Riley sometimes makes decisions on her own, and the emotions are sometimes reactive. And they're like, well, remember that? Yeah, we did that. That wasn't the best. You could tell, sometimes they're not in control. And she has her own brain and her own thoughts that she acts on without their help. And I thought, they didn't hit that point hard, but I thought it was another layer that adds even more to this. So I'd like to see them expand on that even. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. This is going to get high marks for me. Matt?
Yeah, you guys have covered a lot of the territory that I would have said, but I think that this movie and the first one are pleasantly different enough in ideas from the corpus of movies that we watch. Like we see a lot that's okay, it's this again, that type of thing. This is set apart from those, and I think when we come across stories like that and movies like that, that's really something special when you're taken to a place that no one has really taken you before. Yeah, I know we saw this world in the first movie, but I almost look at it as a continuation, and this was well done enough that it's a great continuation, and it's a breath of fresh air from a lot of what we see. So I liked it a lot too, and I think this movie for kids is going to be great, and for parents is going to be great. I'd say anyone would like it, but I think it really kind of made me feel my feelings when I thought about my own kids and how they have navigated this transition of life as they're young adults now, and like Todd said, I thought about myself and how I moved into growing up, into puberty, and into young adulthood myself. So I think there's plenty of meat here, and things to think about as you watch this movie. I would say the one maybe minor detraction I would say is like you always kind of knew where this movie was headed.
Sure.
You knew what the ending was going to be, even as we're facing conflict. And I agree with you, Marie. I think they did wrap it up very quickly and tied it with a neat bow, which maybe they just wanted to keep things short, and that's why they did that. I don't know. But I agree. There could have been a little bit more expansive wrap up and ending to this. But those are minor quibbles for me. I really enjoyed my time, and it's always good when a movie makes me feel something. That's a big plus for me in my experience. So, I really liked it.
I kind of think a better ending would have been like everything plays out the way it plays out, but the ending is Riley going to see someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just shoving that lesson in there that it's okay to talk about like what's going on with you and how you're feeling and stuff like that. I thought that would have been not only better but maybe more impactful.
Yeah.
And they could have played into the emotions handling that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that they could add some both fun and like insight. Because they tend to balance the fun with the insight almost in the same scene sometimes, and I think they really balance that really well.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get therapy in Inside Out 3.
Maybe.
Well, and not even I mean, that's a great idea, Todd.
Yeah.
I like that. But I don't even think that would have been great. But the fact that there was that one scene with the big conflict, and they put it in the movie that she figured all that out by herself in that moment, and I don't want to like have a big spoiler, but like it all just resolved right then. And anyone who has worked with those emotions that were happening at the time knows that for that event that she was experiencing, most people cannot get through that by themselves. And
none of my panic attacks have ever ended that way.
all right, well there you go. You
I think we
named
can say
it.
that.
You
We can
named
say
it.
that. Yeah.
Right. So especially your first panic attack, and I was just waiting for one of her friends or the coach or someone to come and check in on her, and for them to be some kind of connection and trust and listen there. And so I was disappointed that, because then I feel like that gives the message that the kids should be able to handle their anxiety all by themselves and resolve any panic attack or anxiety attack or moment when they're feeling shame and anxiety and sadness and it's overwhelming and their body is reacting in such a way. 100% of people can't do that on the first time, and sometimes ever. So that now that we've
I get what you're saying.
that was my big disappointment. And then all of a sudden everything was fine.
Yeah, I feel like they were going for the story reason, and I'm just guessing. That they were trying to say, like, for them, like we had seen, like I said, her emotions were driving her. But in that moment, that was, like you said, that was her first, like, no, I'm in charge, and I've got this. So you're right, not everybody can do that, but I think that was meant to be a growth moment for the character. Even if I think what you're bringing up is an excellent point, and I think that would also have been good to see too. Because I looked at one point, I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler either. One of the friends looked over at her when she was freaking out,
right?
And I thought she was going to come over and break her out of the fog,
right?
Yeah.
Or just. But she also had conflict with that friend.
True.
And then my other criticism would be there were no consequences for her from her behavior.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Even though she was trying things out, and so where was the life lesson in how she treated her friends,
Right.
or how she was doing something that was actually against the rules at one point, that wasn't okay. And so there were no, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more consequence and how she learned how to handle it with her emotions of shame and sadness and anger and frustration, and then learning how to navigate that. I like that she apologized for her behavior to her friends, and that was nice that they forgave her and they were able to move on. But that was part of like the really quick wrap up.
No, I think that's right.
Where I thought maybe they could have done a better job developing how you resolve conflict within yourself and with the people that you love. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
All very good
but
points.
I loved it. I just those were my thoughts.
No, I think those were all very valid, very good.
Well, getting down to business here, how many sarcasms would you give this movie? Which
What a great
sarcasms
Yes.
was a great.
I
That whole
agree.
scene
That was
like had me
that was,
fantastic.
That was funny. That was really
Not only funny just for the wordplay, but then how they showed it in action. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, that was amazing.
0 being the worst because then you have none, 5 being the best because you got 5. So, Matt?
I guess it's great.
I'm gonna give this movie 4 sarcasms out of 5. I thought it was really a nice ride, and I forgot to mention this during my time, but there is a parody for anyone who has ever watched Mickey Mouse Clubhouse in your life.
Oh, it's so dead on.
They really do a funny parody of that
Those kind
show,
of shows.
and specifically the Toodles character in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is parodied very well in
and
this
the
movie.
application of Toodle.
So, anyway, thought I'd
I
mention
love
that.
the different types of animation.
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah.
They mixed animations in that scene.
Yeah,
That was
that was great.
So
What was the fighter game character's name? I can't remember.
Lance Bladesaw or something. It's something really silly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm up there high. I want to say Inside Out was in my. I obviously didn't do it on the podcast, but up in 4 or 5 range. So, like I said, this was not as great, but it's still pretty darn great. I'm gonna have it at a 4.2.
Nice. Marie?
I'm going with 3.8.
3.8.
Solid.
There it is. Yeah, I'm going to land on a 3.9. Some of the critiques that we've talked about, I think are pretty prevalent, but still a fantastic movie. And honestly, I think something I didn't mention or forgot to was the animation. Like,
Yes.
there were a couple scenes where, like, there's a scene where, like, Joy is down and anger comes over to, like, grab her hand or whatever. And in that scene, like, he comes to grab her hand or whatever, and his skin is so textured. Like, it was, like, almost moving around and stuff like that. And I was like, what a great detail. Like, I'm sure that took forever to animate. Just that one small scene.
Yeah, I noticed that there were a lot of detail work.
Yeah, I was like, you guys really upped the game from the first one, I think, as far as animation goes. But yeah, 3.9, solid movie. Highly recommend it. I think there's no reason to not see it unless you hate yourself and you hate,
And then you
hate
should,
Disney.
because then you can understand yourself a
Learn
little
it.
better.
Yeah, right. And this is a good movie for the audience. We had a good audience in our showing, and there was some laughter at good points, and there was some awes, and I thought and
there was interaction with.
There was a little bit because there was a scene where they're asked to sing, and there's some people started singing, and it's a really good crowd movie.
It would be fun to see during the day with all the preschoolers,
All the kids,
and
sure.
the summer kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good movie.
all right.
I think they should have just paid the money and had it be Dora the Explorer.
Or Toodles himself.
I know.
Yeah.
Dora, yeah.
It's Disney, so.
All right. Any last thoughts?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Go see it.
Well, then that will wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed the movie Inside Out 2, and we gave it an average rating of 3.975 sarcasms out of 5. That's a very good rating for us, and we think unanimously that you should see it. That's right, you, the listener.
And all of your emotions.
And all of your emotions, take them with you and feel your feelings. Because it's good.
Feel your feelings.
It's good to feel your feelings.
You can name them too. I named mine.
There you go.
Yes. So, thank you for listening, downloading, subscribing. Please continue to do all of those things. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da.